couple minutes early, but nothing wrong with starting early. We got a full house, so let's do it. Welcome to How Not to Hose Canvas with custom JavaScript and CSS. My name is Ryan Florence. I'm a software engineer at Instructure. JavaScript was my first programming language. There's a rare breed of us programmers now coming up into the programming workforce where this is the case. It used to be really rare, but I'm one of these. I've been with Instructure for almost 2 years now. September will be 2 years. My team works on the JavaScript and the CSS frameworks and also on the quizzes. So our goal is to try to get the tools in place for all of the other engineers to be able to have all their user interface look the same as everybody else's. And then we own the quizzes feature from top to bottom. I got a degree in economics with finance and English emphasis, so again, a little bit atypical. I love playing with my kids. I've got 3 of them. I like playing music, drums, guitar, bass. Got my hands on a didgeridoo once. That thing was pretty fun. I love mountain biking. If you're not from Utah and you're looking around here, it's pretty obvious that it's something that you should do next time you visit. And wakeboarding, snowboarding, and I was the panda going off the scooter ramp in the video earlier. So, a little story about that. Within about 6 feet of the ramp, I was blind. So, anyway. Yeah, here it comes. Okay, custom JavaScript and CSS. Canvas allows administrators to just drop in a URL to any old JavaScript file on the internet and any old CSS file on the internet. Raise your hand if you did not know that. One person. Maybe in the last week if you didn't know that. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, sir, to just leave. I don't want you to know about any of this. I'm just kidding, stay here. So pretend with me for a moment that you are going in for open heart surgery. And the doctor gets out his saw, or the surgeon, cuts through your rib cage, opens you up, and then you actually have anesthesia that keeps you awake. And then he's like, here, have a couple scalpels, and feel free to join in with us. Do whatever you want, but be careful. That's sort of how I feel about us letting you stick whatever JavaScript you want into Canvas. So this talk, yeah. But Canvas is open. We're an open company. It's called Canvas for a reason. The idea is it's a canvas for you to do what you need for your education. We're going to put in a lot of patterns, but we also want to keep it pretty open for you to do what you need to do. And so I think it's a really powerful feature. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I would hate it if we didn't have the feature in there to allow you to do what you want to do. But I also hate that it's in there because you can do whatever you want to do. Oh, I forgot my picture. There's the picture. Oh, hang on. I'm supposed to have audio in here.
This guy, Flash Thompson, he probably deserved what happened. But just because you can beat him up doesn't give you the right to. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Did you hear that? With great power comes great responsibility. So your responsibilities, if you choose to include custom JavaScript onto your page. Number 1, host files on a reliable server. People can do whatever they want if they get a hold of this JavaScript file or the server that you've got it on. They could install a keylogger, and now they can get all your admin passwords and everything else because the login screen loads that JavaScript. So if you're not on a secure server or you've got people that you don't really trust with access to this server, wherever your JavaScript file is, it could be game over for your Canvas instance. You also need to check beta every 3 weeks. That's our release cycle. I pulled down all of the JavaScript that everyone includes into Canvas. There were several hundred of them, and I just kind of browsed through them for about an hour to see what kinds of things people were doing. And there's a lot of text changing, and you got to go and check that stuff because we don't have any contract about what our HTML is going to look like with you. So every 3 weeks, go into beta, make sure that the pages that you're messing with still look the way that you want them to. And like I said, understand the security risks with just including a JavaScript file on the page. People can do all sorts of things if they get a hold of it. So what can you do? The sky is the limit until you break something. And when you break something, this is how I'm going to respond to the error reports that we see. Oh. Look at that. Another error from custom JavaScript. All right. Yeah, that guy, man. Every time we deploy on Saturdays, we'll look at the error reports and see like what's happening. Maybe we busted something, which usually doesn't happen because we have a really great process and really great QA. But we'll get like a bunch of weird errors sometimes, and I'm thinking, what did we do with JavaScript? And then I trace it down, and oh, custom JavaScript. So you're on your own. These are some of the things that people do with custom JavaScript. Like I said, I pulled all the files down and looked at what people were doing. A lot of people will edit the login screen. They'll pull some text off there, like the forgot your password, and then send them to a different link, that kind of stuff. It's great. Some people will hide features. They just want to stick it to Canvas. For a while, we did not allow teachers to disable student discussions. Like, any student could start a discussion in any course. And it made a lot of people upset. And at Canvas, we're like, well, no, it's open, it's a course. But we finally made it a feature, so you can turn that off. But for a long time, we would tell people, well, just drop some custom JavaScript on there and pull the button off. Some people wipe out some things in the help dialog when you click help, and it lets them file a ticket. And they want to file the ticket to your own system. So we allow you to stick links into that dialog, but we don't allow you to pull any out. And so people go in there and pull things out. Changing the footer, a lot of people change the footer, or add some items to the primary navigation up top. Those are some kind of common things. Here are some tips. Don't use generic selectors. So here's a jQuery selector, .quiz. I saw this in someone's custom JavaScript. If you know much about the DOM or HTML, if you just go find any old element with class name quiz and you change the HTML, you're going to wipe out an entire DOM tree. And that's probably not what you were after. So be really, really specific on your selectors. Don't use globals, like global JavaScript variables. We don't really use globals either. We use AMD to wrap everything. But we may have a global for some reason. And if you have one that has the same name as ours, then our code is not going to work the way it's supposed to because it's going to be pulling stuff from your variable and probably throw an error. A lot of stuff I saw people changing styles with JavaScript on elements. You don't need to do that. You could just drop a custom CSS file in there and change that. And so, yeah, you don't always need JavaScript for everything. Use jQuery. We will, for the foreseeable future, use jQuery, so feel free. It's going to be on the page. It's available to you. Use it. Don't add events unless you need to. So lots of people I saw were adding click events to elements that are only on one page in Canvas, but every single page is going to try to add an event to that. So you got to do a couple checks first to make sure you're on the right page and that you've got the right things before you add a bunch of events. You can delegate event handlers as well. What this means is a parent element gets a click event, and then it will delegate it to a child that was actually clicked. And that's useful because we have a lot of dynamic HTML on the page and client-side templates. And so the element may not be there when the page loads and your JavaScript executes. And so if you delegate it, and you can look that up on jQuery's documentation, if you delegate it, then the click will still work when the element's on the page. You click it, it'll fire the handler. If you're trying to do really crazy stuff, an LTI integration might be better. So this custom JavaScript is for nice little hacks, little things you want to do. If you're trying to build a pretty robust feature, you might want to do something with LTI. So let's hack. If you've got your computers or a notepad, you might want to jot down this URL. I've got some helpers that I think would be useful for people that are writing custom JavaScript. And I've put them up on GitHub at this URL. It's an O. I had to verify that because I knew that would come up.
Can we also just go to your GitHub?
Yeah. Yeah, so my GitHub is rpflorence. So you can just go to gist.github.com/rpflorence. And it's the top gist right now because I just barely put it up there 10 minutes ago. Yeah, here I can, like that. P is for Peterson. It's my maiden name. You guys are laughing. That hurts my feelings. All right. Let's look at some code. This first one is an on-page helper. You guys see that all right? Should I switch to light? Oh, that's not any better. Let's do... Is that better? Okay. It's a joke in the office about how much I like to switch my color schemes. I can just like do new color and I get a brand new one over and over and over again. But anyway. Okay, so on page, this is important. You don't want to run a bunch of code across all of Canvas all the time, every time someone loads a page, because most of the time you just want to do something on the settings page or you just want to do something to the discussions page. And here's a really great way to check that. I've written this little on-page function, and so you hand it a regular expression. So here it's going to check for courses / some ID / settings, and then if I'm on that page, then this code will execute. And if I'm not on that page, none of this code will execute. So this is a common thing I saw where people have, let's go to a course settings. Oh wow, this is a really small screen, that's too bad. So over here on a course settings page, we've got these buttons. And there are a couple of scary ones, like reset this course. Permanently delete this course. And so some people don't want the teachers to be able to do that. And so you could check, am I on this page? And then I go and find the reset course content button and remove it. I go and find the button that says conclude this course and remove it. And then I do the delete course link and remove it. And so if I run this code, see the buttons are there now. After I refresh, they're gone because it ripped them off. So pretty useful. The problem is that pulls it off for everybody. So if you're the admin, you also can't conclude a course. So bummer. What do we do?
Can you still do it through the API?
Probably, but I've got a better idea. So we've got the on-page helper. Here's another one. We've got this global thing called env. That's the environment that our server sends to the browser. A lot of people have discovered this. And so it's there. You can use it. I'll give you the thumbs up. You can look at anything on env. Some of the keys might change, but go ahead and use that. And on every page, you'll have the current user roles. And it's an array of roles, so you can check if a person has a certain role or not. So I wrote this little helper that it's just a couple lines. I saw a lot of weird code for checking for this, so thought I'd maybe give you guys a pretty solid solution here. So first I check, am I on the page, the settings page, and then is the person an admin? And I can hand several roles to this, like student, and it'll return true if they're an admin or a student, either one. Because sometimes you want to do things for teachers and admins or students and observers. And then it sends into the callback a has role Boolean. And so I say, if they have role of admin, just get out of there. Leave the page alone. But if they are not an admin, blow away all those buttons. So I'm not going to show that one. That one's easy to imagine, and I don't want to have to switch users and stuff. So has any role, really useful. A lot of people are checking for roles. So in that gist, you can use that in your code.
And this is the stuff you post, these little
Yeah.
Subroutines.
Right. So the question was, these are the things that have been posted on the gist. Yeah, so all these helpers has any role, and on page, these are the things that are on the gist. So that one's useful. Here's another one. If you want to just check for a specific user, I saw a lot of this where it's like, if username is Carl Johnson, then do some stuff. That's kind of scary. But anyway, I would rather use it to pull pranks on people, personally. So let's see what happens here. So isUser checks if the person is that user ID. So if it's me, Ryan, then if it's not Ryan, get out of here. If it is, let's add this event. This is what I was talking about in the tips. Don't add events unless you should. So I don't add this mouse enter event unless it's Ryan. And on mouse enter of any button, we're going to frighten the button. I wonder what that means. So here I am. I log in. I want to add a section. Oh, what? And I can't click it either, obviously. Don't you guys miss the internet that did this? Right? And like the dollar signs following your mouse around. Anyway, so isUser. I don't know if that's a very good one other than for messing around with people. Because, when John leaves the school and no one knows his login, then, what are you going to do? All right, there was another thing that I saw a lot of since we have really dynamic pages. It's hard to know when something happens. So one example is this, help button. The dialog pops up, and people want to remove this report a problem button. But you don't know when that gets rendered on the page, and we don't publish these events globally for you to hook into. So what you can do is put a poll in to see when the element is actually on the page. So I've got this on element rendered helper where you hand it a selector, just a jQuery selector. So I'm going to look for the button that links to create ticket. And when I find it, this callback over here, this function, will get called. And then I'll find its parent thing and then wipe it out. So the way that this works is it gets the selector, stores how many attempts we're going to make. So we start on the first attempt. And if we find the element, so if the element has length, greater than 0 anyway, we'll call back with the element. Or if we've tried 60 times, let's just give up and get out of there. And it tries and then put in a set timeout every 250 milliseconds, and then we'll just try it again. So it's sort of like a recursive function, but it's not really recursive, but it's just polling and calling itself over and over and over again. So I think at 250 times 60, that's 30 seconds, and then it'll just quit. So let's drop this one in. So this button used to be here. If I reload this now, you see it kind of flash and then it gets removed. So there was some really, really, really weird code out there to try to do that, this on element rendered thing. So this is only a couple lines, and if you got rid of the attempts thing, if you just pulled forever, it'd be 3 lines of code. So yeah, all you need is a quick little set timeout. This is really useful, and in fact, we are implementing some new tour guides into Canvas, and I did the first one recently to give you a little feature tour. And I had the same problem that custom JavaScript has where I couldn't wire into the events of the page. I was like, oh, hey, on element rendered. So I pulled it straight out of this talk and put it into Canvas, and then I used it. So it's actually pretty useful. So that's on element rendered. And this last one, this one's pretty awesome. So far, things have been kind of boring. The button was kind of fun, but the other things were kind of boring. So we're going to add a key up event to like every input element ever in Canvas. And if you type the word unicorn, we're going to make magic happen. Like, no one should call their section unicorn, right? Yeah.
A long time ago, when the earth was green, there are more kinds of animals than you've ever seen. They'd run around and play while the earth was being born, but the loveliest of all was the unicorn. The green alligators, the long-necked geese.
All right. Anyway, I love that Cornify script. So this brings up another thing. We use require.js, and again, we will be using this for the foreseeable future. So like jQuery, if you want to plug into require.js, go ahead and do it in your script. So you see here, I'm just loading up this Cornify.js, which is pretty hilarious. You just call Cornify add, and it drops a unicorn on the page. And then the more you call it, the more unicorns come. And eventually, if you call it like 10 times, it switches all the headers to Comic Sans. I put too many unicorns on there, but and it actually turns a lot of them pink. So anyway, it's kind of fun. And then I dropped an iframe in there for the music, because it's way better with music. So we got to get rid of that. Or I just don't need to type unicorn, right? Let's look at CSS real fast. CSS has gotten a lot more powerful lately. So we could do, I don't want to do that. So the after party, here's a great thing to do to somebody. So I've got this WebKit animation called after party, and so every div on the page, let's have an after party. So if I reload this, whoa! That's what was going on in Hammer's hotel room last night. All right, so that's way too obtrusive and obvious. I think here's a better one to pull a trick on someone. Zoom, and let's zoom the whole body over 10,000 seconds. It's really subtle. So you'd be using the page, right? And after a while, you'll be like, wait, do I need to scroll? Like, what's going on here? I'm open for questions now. What questions do you have? Yeah.
One of the things I found in my JavaScript, well, first of all, it's getting big, that big file. And so I'm wondering, if there are better ways to animate it in. I've been bringing in certain snippets through JavaScript. And the other thing is I found that if I put things in certain order, things definitely change. Like I did a lot of that timeout stuff. So I find that if you can give some advice on the order of how things arrive, if that matters.
Okay.
I did definitely find things happen differently.
So 2 questions. Number 1 was, my file's getting really big. How can I manage that better? And number 2, it seems like the ordering of my scripts screws things up or gives me different results. So number 1, require.js. We've got that in there, so you can do require, give it an array of paths to JavaScript files, and it'll pull those in. And look up AMD or require.js, and you can actually just make them modules and export like an object, and then we call them bundles in Canvas. So we pull in a bunch of modules, and then we initialize them or call methods on them, so you could do the same thing. So using require.js, just pull them in. And then the second one, to me that sounds like it's like your scripts that are behaving differently because of order, and so I don't know how to answer that. That's just sort of like a general JavaScript question, order matters kind of thing. But as far as ordering of our scripts, we have some really explicit code to not load your JavaScript until all of ours is loaded. So like we watch and make sure all our stuff's there, and then we drop yours on the page. So yours will always come after ours.
Kind of like the footer, change the footer, and I did those before I did header stuff, things like that didn't work.
Oh, weird. Yeah, I don't know why that would happen. Okay, next question. Yeah.
It's actually awesome that you have like all these gists, but why don't you make like a JavaScript API on top of this?
For custom JavaScript, because we don't want you to do it. Like, you know, we're open. We want to let you do what you want to do with Canvas, but like, it's not something that we enjoy having in the software. Yeah. Oh, sorry. That last question was why don't we have a JavaScript API for everyone to use and like publish global events and stuff for people to hook into? Okay, sorry. Next question.
So end user can disable the JavaScript file, right?
Say that again.
So end users can disable the JavaScript file.
Yeah.
So they're going to keep in mind that whatever customers you put in may not work. Like if people can play with the site, I mean they know how to disable JavaScript, right? Not the entire JavaScript, but just loading of your custom file. Or even they can see what you're doing in that file. And potentially they can change it.
Yeah, if anyone has access to the file, they could change it and make different things happen to Canvas. Did that answer your question? Okay. The question was, if someone has access to the file, they can change it, and then anything will happen, right? And it's like, yes. Yeah.
So we use Twitter Bootstrap for some course page designs, and I found that in the CSS I have to kind of put wiki body before everything. Do you think you'll support anything like less or something in the future?
Well, for custom stuff, you can write it in less and then compile it, right? And then just include that file. Yeah, we won't ever like say, oh yeah, hand us a less or a Sass file. Sorry, I'm bad at repeating the questions. The question was, it would be great to use a CSS preprocessor like less or Sass. Do you ever plan on implementing that? And a pretty solid no. You can just compile it and include it yourself. Again, because like we love the CSS for branding, but outside of that, it's like, hey, don't touch our design. Yeah.
Have you considered creating maybe a custom code for making the course navigation drop rather than always appear so that we can have the entire page to display content and or also alternate navigations for those kinds of needs?
So the question is, let me see if I got this right. Do we have plans for removing some of the Chrome of Canvas to give you more room for your content?
Correct. Particularly just the navigation on the sidebar.
Yeah.
Navigation. And not removing. I'm talking about just dropping it down, and then whenever the user doesn't want to see or they scroll away from that.
Yeah, to be able to collapse the sidebar.
Collapsible sidebar.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of old code around that sidebar, and we are actively working on like being able to just not have it on a lot of pages at all. But for just collapsing it, that's just sort of a feature request. You can make a custom JavaScript thing that does it. But yeah, the UI team is working hard on new navigation, and you can actually go see some of their prototypes down in the main area in the big building. I forgot what it's called. Yeah, and they've got, Grand Summit. They've got some examples of what they're working on.
You can get a cool hat if you test them out.
Zach?
It's important to note that if the server that you're hosting your custom JavaScript and CSS on goes down, it's going to make it look like Canvas is down because the browser's not going to be able to load those, so it's going to be red or anything. So it's really important, it was kind of alluded to on one of the slides, to make sure that that's hosted on a really reliable server. It's happened several times where we get a report that Canvas is down, we investigate for 15 minutes, and finally, oh, it's the custom JavaScript, we pull it off the page, and then Canvas works. So just make sure that wherever it's hosted is rock solid.
I agree with Zach. He said that you should have a rock-solid server. It's fun to say this to your boss. We fixed that. So because we poll for when required.js is done, loading all of its stuff, if their script doesn't exist, the server's down, like Canvas still runs.
Still true for CSS though?
Yeah. Yep. We used to, yeah. So. Yeah, well, yeah, your stuff won't happen. Yeah, obviously. Unless you like stick it in local storage and then pull it out of there first, right? So, How am I? Okay, we got 1 more minute. Time for another question. Maybe 2 if it's quick. All right, I've sufficiently scared you all from doing custom JavaScript. Thank you.